Today I'm going to be showing you how to felt your own chicken, and this is using my needle felting kit, which is for sale on my Etsy shop called GeorgiaT Crafts. I will also put the link for my Etsy shop in the description box below. Here is what your finished chicken will look like, and your kit will be able to make 2 chickens, one brown and one in this rust colour. So in your kit you will have the instructions on the top and then the 2 packages of the wool for the different coloured chickens. So I'm going to be showing you how to make the brown one today, but it is the same process for the rust coloured chicken. And then there's also a little tube with 2 felting needles in, and that tube is just protecting the needles. And then lastly, you've got a foam felting mat. But you can also get this kit without the felting mat if you've already got one. So, the first thing I'm going to do is to get my package of wool and open it. And inside you'll have some white wool, which is the core wool, and then we have the brown wool, yellow wool, red wool, and a small piece of black wool. So with the core wool, I'm going to start off with that, and I'm going to split that in half. So we have 2 equal sections of the wool. So I'm just going to put one of those halves aside, and then with the other remaining piece, I'm going to shape this into an oblong shape, and this is to make the body of the chicken. On your instructions you will see that there is a template under the first step, and this can give you a guide as to how big the oblong should be, so you can check this against the template as I'm doing here. And then when you're happy with the shape of the oblong, you just want to felt it so it keeps this shape without you having to hold it. So that's what I'm just doing here, and it's important to make sure that you felt over the entire length of the oblong and all the way round, so you can just turn it as you're felting. And we want this oblong to hold its shape, but we still want it to be quite squishy. And here I'm just making sure that I felt the end as well, just so that no sections of this oblong are missed. And then as you can see here, it's still squishy, but it's holding its shape now. So next what we want to do is we want to felt one end of this oblong narrower. So here, when holding it against a template in step number 2, those arrows indicate that this is the section that I want to felt narrower. So now I'm just going to concentrate on felting that area that I want to be narrower. So this is making the tail of the chicken. So as you can see here, I'm just going to make sure that I felt all the way round this section in order to make sure that it is felted nicely all the way round. And what you'll notice as you're doing this is that the wool fibres will compress more in this area, because this is where you're concentrating your felting, and this gives you the narrow tail which is what we are looking for. And here is what you want when you finish this step. So as you can see, there is the narrow tail, and then the body is larger. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to felt the tail so it sticks up. So to do this, I'm going to press the tail upwards against the felting mat and then just felt this in place. And then this is what you're looking for the end result. So the next step is to start making the chicken's head. So that remaining white wool, which is our core wool, I'm going to split that in half, and I'm going to set one half aside again, and then with the other half I'm just going to start shaping this into a ball shape. So on your instructions for step number 3 there is another template which you can use to make sure that you have shaped the head into the correct size. So I'm just doing this now, and I'm just going to bend that last little bit of wool over just to try and incorporate it all for the head. So I'm now going to start felting the head so it stays in shape, but I want to leave the fibres on one side of the head unfelted. This is so that there's some loose fibres on this side, which means that I can attach the head to the body more easy. So for that I just like to hold the fibres on one side. As you can see, I'm just doing this with my left hand, and this is the section which I will leave the fibres loose. But as you can see, when I am felting, I am turning the head all the way round, and this just makes sure each side is felted. So when the head is holding its shape but is still squishy, the next thing is to attach it onto the body of your chicken. So if you place the loose fibre side on the wider part of the body on top, as I'm doing here, and then you just want to felt those loose wool fibres down to attach the head. And it's important just to felt all the way around the base of the head just to make sure that it's fully secure. And then once you're happy with that, it should look something like this. So now we just need to felt the wings for the chicken. So with that remaining core wool, you just need to split that in half again, and then taking one piece, you're going to fold that into an oval shape, and you're looking for it to be similar size to the template on step 4, and we're going to felt this into that wing shape. So to start with, you just want to start felting the wing into a flat oval shape, and then once you've done that, you want to pinch the end and then felt the wing just on that end bit, just to give it a point. And just be really careful when you're doing this because the needle is very close to your fingers. So after this, we've now got to felt that wing onto one side of the body. So you want to line up the large end of the wing with the front of the body and the tip just before the chicken's tail, and then you just want to felt that down onto the chicken's body, just remembering to felt along the whole section of the wing just to fully secure it. And then all you're going to do once you've done that, with your last piece of core wool, you're just going to repeat those steps to make the second wing. So just felting it into that oval shape, and then just shaping it into that wing shape by felting one end thinner. And then just felt that wing onto the other side of the chicken's body as before. So this is what it should look like after you've done that step. So now we've got to add some colour onto our chicken. So because I'm making the brown chicken, I've just got my brown wool now, and you probably won't need all of your brown wool or your rust wool depending on what colour you're doing, but I've just put in plenty just to make sure you definitely have enough. So what I'm going to do is break sections off of my brown wool, and then I'm going to felt those sections over the whole body of the chicken so that everything is completely covered. And you just want to make sure that none of the white underneath shows through. So as you can see, I'm just felting the wing now. And now I'm just doing the base. And then this is what you should have your chicken looking like when you have covered it completely with the wool. So what I'm going to do now is just felt around the edge of each wing just to make the wing more defined now that I've covered it. So what you may notice also is that there is still a tiny bit of the white showing through, and if you find, like me, that you've got that too, you can just carry on adding sections of the brown wool just to cover over any last remaining patches. And then that wing is looking more defined now, so I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. So now that I've done that, this is what my chicken is looking like. So the last part that we've got to do is just to add the finer details. So this includes the beak, the comb, and the wattle of the chicken and the eyes. So I'm going to start off by doing the beak. So taking your yellow wool in your kit, you just want to fold this into a very small oblong, and the best way is just to judge how much wool you need by sort of folding the wool, holding it up against the chicken's face and seeing, does that look an okay size for the beak. So I've decided to remove a bit of the yellow wool, and I'm thinking that's looking a better size now. So now I've just got that very small section of wool. I'm going to very carefully felt this into a small oblong shape for the beak, and I'm going to keep the wool fibres loose at one end of the beak again, just so it makes it easier to attach the beak onto the chicken's face. So once I'm happy with that, I'm now just going to get my chicken, and then you want to place the beak towards the bottom half of the chicken's face in the middle, and then I'm just going to felt that on. So I'm happy with how the chicken's beak is looking now. So the next stage is to get your red wool, and I'm going to remove a third of the red wool and just place this to one side for later. And then with the remaining wool, I'm going to shape this into an oblong shape. And you can hold this up to the template in step number 8, and just to make sure this is an okay size. And then you're going to just felt that oblong just so it holds its shape. Just be very careful not to hurt your fingers. And you want it to look something like this. And now we're going to attach this to the top of the chicken's head. So I'm going to start felting one end of the oblong onto the top of the chicken's head, just to secure it into place. And then I'm going to bunch up the next section, just as I'm doing here, and then I'm going to felt that down so that that bunch stays in place. And then once I'm happy that that's in place, I'm going to push the next section up like that, and I'm just going to felt that at the base just to keep that in place as well. And that just creates the chicken's comb. So then after that you can just felt all along it just to make sure it's fully secured in place. And here is what you are aiming for it to look like. So now we're just going to add the wattle. So taking your remaining red wool, you're just going to shape this into a small oval shape using your template as a guide. So that's just what I'm doing here. And now you want to felt this oval straight onto your chicken, and you want to felt it under the beak, just at the base of the chicken's head. And just make sure to felt it completely so that it's fully attached to the chicken. So now the last step is just to add the eyes. So get a small section of your black wool, and you want to then roll it into a ball, and you want it to be about the size of half a grain of rice. And then once you've rolled it into a ball, you just need to felt it onto the chicken's face, just one side of the beak, as I'm doing here. And then you just want to repeat that for the other eye of the chicken. And then once you're happy with your chicken, if you want to, you could use a pair of scissors just to trim any loose fibres, just to neaten it up. And that's just what I'm doing here. So that is the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions about making the chicken or about felting in general, please just leave them in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.